And I guess we're live. And we're
Live.
live. Welcome, everybody. I want you guys to welcome the Juju King, Yashu from Hit That Bid. Welcome, man. Thanks a lot for coming here, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pejjy, for having me on. I know it's a little bit early for a lot of folks, but you know what? I know
Yeah.
there's a degree of people that live not in the North American time zone. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Oh shoot. Whoops. Sorry, man. I had the video up and it was just repeating everything. I'm just like, what the heck's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on?
yeah.
Still
Happens.
getting used to this live stuff, man. But no, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I really appreciate your time. I know it's 7:30 for you over there. Here it's 6:30 p.m. So it's a massive, massive time difference. So thank you. Thank you for, spending your Saturday. You didn't have to, but thank you for coming on. And those of you
Absolutely.
guys that don't know Yashu, man, I mean, he's a guy who talks about investments on YouTube, mainly Tesla. He's a Tesla enthusiast as well, and he shares some really great data on his channel. And I'm a subscriber myself, so I really encourage you guys to go check out his channel and subscribe because he gets some juicy stuff coming through videos, and he's very very active when it comes to live. And he's a fellow Canadian, so
Hmm.
what is there not to you know like
Yeah.
about that?
Yes, I know the Canadian thing is funny. I always mention every now and then to someone that comes on the channel, and they're kind of like shocked that like people actually live up in Canada. I feel like people have a perception of Canadians that is a little bit different from the truth, but yeah.
And those of you guys that don't know, Yoshu is on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver. I am in the east coast in Toronto, but at the moment I'm in the Middle East for work. But I do want to, I'm just curious because if there's one place that's more expensive in terms of living than Toronto, it's Vancouver. Man, how do you
Yeah.
live up there? How do you live in Vancouver, man?
That's a good question. Yeah, the cost of living's high up here. It is. Housing especially is the
Dude,
big cost. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man, because I've just lived here my whole life. I've been grateful and lucky enough to have like my family brought me up here, so I call this home. I guess, it's the Stockholm syndrome, when you're stuck in
mm,
an environment that's screwing you over, but you're born and bred in it pretty much, so you kind of get used to it. So I don't know. I just haven't known anything else.
geez. Well, how is the real estate market in Vancouver? Because the real estate market in Toronto, man, it's just madness. In Toronto, I think in Ontario, to apply for a mortgage, you need to have at least an annual income of 200K. Now, and the homes, at least, I mean, 1,000 square foot home is like a million and a half, even with all this, recession going on, interest rates, quantitative tightening. It's
Hmm.
still it's like 1,000 square feet home for a million and a half. Like, that's insane. So
Yeah.
how is it? I know it's worse in Vancouver, man. So I want to know what's going on up there.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. It was a lot easier during COVID when interest rates were a lot lower. I have a property that's coming up for renewal actually right now. I'm in the middle of doing it, and interest rates. I went from a 3.44 5 years ago when I got it to now. It's going to be closer to a 6% interest rate on that mortgage. Yeah, it's just nuts. So I think I'm going to do a 1 year fixed, and then see in a year now from now if I can change it to variable or something a little bit lower. But yeah, it is nuts. Yeah, rent's high too. But the thing is, with Vancouver is just a first class city. And I know I'm biased, but anytime I leave Vancouver, anytime I live anywhere else in the world, although I've visited a lot of places that I love, I'm really happy when I come home. We have the oceans, we have the mountains, we have the ability to travel down to the States if we want really fast. It's just a very unique city. And if you haven't been here before, I recommend coming in the summertime. That's really when I think it's the best. It showcases itself the best. But it is nuts. And I mean, sales volume is down. I'm also a licensed realtor, so I follow the real
Oh,
estate
nice.
market. Um, it Sales volume's down for sure, but it's weird this week, especially anecdotally. I'm seeing a lot of sales finally come through again, albeit a little bit under list price. But I'm seeing the real estate market actually start to show kind of more signs of life again, and I don't think it's going to be that much longer until it kind of goes back to what it was normal pre-COVID, because COVID was just unreasonably high in terms of volume and prices going up. But I think it'll
Mm.
probably go back to kind of what in 2019 it was.
Already, even with all these interest rates, and I mean 5%. I think Canada is what 4.5, 5%. It's around there, if
Six,
I'm not mistaken.
six, six over six, over 6%. Yeah, yeah. I
Jesus.
think you can get a 5-year fix for under five, but like 4.9 or something. But who's gonna lock in 5 years today? I don't recommend doing that. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
most
crazy.
likely in 2 3 years time, when hopefully we can see an ease in interest rates. But then, man, like in Toronto, there was a stat that came out, just like I think it was last year or 6 months ago. It said that 70% of millennials that gets a property there, 70% of them get funding from their parents because they can't
Uh,
do it on their own. It's impossible. And I have real estate in Toronto as well, but I got them like 5 6 years ago, and that was pre-construction.
oh, pre-sale. Okay.
Yeah, pre-sale. I think that was the best way to go, and I think even today is the best way to go. I mean, what, you put like 50 grand down now, and then you pay like, increments until a 3 4 year time, and then you can either mortgage it, then sell it, or rent it out if you have the cash.
Hmm.
But a condo right now in Toronto, one bedroom is almost $1 million Canadian. Like, bruh, like who's gonna go and live like that's who's first of all, who's got the money for that? And
Hmm.
who would want to live in a one bedroom and pay 1 million? But I don't know, it's ridiculous. And rent 2,500 is at least the rent on a monthly basis. So I don't know. I'm starting to think Canada is becoming more of a place for the rich, and it's just it's getting harder, man. It's getting harder for anyone who wants to get into a property. I mean, you're a real estate agent. I don't know if you have any tips for
Yeah.
um, anyone here that's in Canada that is looking to get home, or what to do. What's
Yeah.
the best thing that they can do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out to everyone in the chat. I see tuning in early in the morning. How's it going, guys? Or in where you're
Yeah,
coming in,
and when one
wherever you're
guy's
tuning
like,
in
"Yo,
from.
yo, it's Yashu PowerPoint."
Shout PowerPoint. But
Yeah.
But I think with real estate, like Toronto, you're lucky because you can go to Mississauga, you can go to Brampton, you can go to York, you have the ability to go outward. In Vancouver, you have the same kind of ability, but you're really capped. Like on one side, you have the ocean, one side you have the border, other side you have the mountain, so you can really only go east. That's why
That's true.
Vancouver real estate is a little bit more unique that way. But Toronto, I mean, suburb life is going to be the continued life. I think people are switching. People need less space today, hopefully, than they did 20 years ago. Although with families, maybe that's not the case. So I don't know. And every play, like you don't have to buy new. Like buying new is just so much more expensive. I'm glad that you have a newer property because you can hold it for 50 years, not really worry about it too much. But yeah, a lot of old stuff. Being able to invest into due diligence, being able to see, there's certain repair projects that can happen and you can buy a fixer up or stuff like that. Those are all methods you can use. But yeah, the down payment is the hard part. It always has been, always will be. For for people that are young, it's the ability to save up the down payment. So yeah, totally understand.
Okay. So and I think the Canadian government's coming up with a new tax-free savings account for homes. I think it's like tax-free first home buyer. I don't know, something like that.
I haven't actually read too much into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently, I mean, I read about it. It does help a bit, but it doesn't help with the down payment. It just helps with the first payments of the mortgage that you
Mm.
get. So it's like it's not really helping as much, but I guess it's a little tool. I don't know, and it's capped at 40,000. I don't know how that's gonna help anybody, but
Well, you can. I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer, not to make this too Canadian specific, because I know a lot of people probably aren't listening to this in
yeah.
Canada, but you can get your RRSP, and then you can actually take out your down payment out of your RRSP as a first-time buyer, and then pretty much you've avoided paying tax on that. And then so there are ways that you can do that as a first-time buyer, and of course you don't pay PTT under 550K here in BC, property transfer tax. So there are certain tools for first-time buyers for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that they get more support because, man, getting a home is flipping hard in Canada. Unless you go to Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, but who the heck wants to go there?
I like Calgary.
Cold.
I think Calgary's nice.
I've been to Calgary once to visit Banff and all that kind of stuff, but it's a very boring city, man. It's just such a. It's like visiting. Have you been to London, Ontario?
No, I have not.
Dude, it's the boringest city ever. Like, there's nothing to do in that city.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not like hype.
I am going to Toronto March 1st, so maybe I'll drive out to
Ooh,
London.
ooh, oh man, I wish I was there. We could like meet up or something. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not coming until maybe June or July
Okay.
for about a month or two or something like that. So, sheesh. Okay, well that's good. That's and those of you guys who are joining us now. We have Yashu here on the channel, Juju King, as we have over here on the side. If I could like bring that up, the Juju King. But great. He does a lot of good analysis on Tesla. As we're all Tesla enthusiasts, I recommend you guys go to the channel link in the bio. Now, the topic of today's video is Tesla right now, the stock trading just below $200 per share, a good buy right now. And we're going to look at some data that we both obviously made. And none of this is financial advice, so don't take all this. Don't take anything here as like, yeah, this is facts. These are just like two guys on the internet that loves Tesla to see what the valuations are. So take all this with a grain of salt. Always do your DD. But we're going to share some data. And Yashu, you want to go first?
Yeah, you want me to go first? Okay.
Let's go. Do
Um,
it.
so the way I look at Tesla valuation is pretty rudimentary. It's pretty basic. I'm a basic guy. I don't really like to get my brain hurting too much. So I have a back of the napkin thing I just shared. I just shared my screen there if you want to pull it up. And
Here we go.
I have so obviously Tesla is a factor of so many different businesses, but of course auto is the main business as it is today. Energy is cool, FSD is cool, all this sort of stuff, robo taxis, Tesla bot, all that stuff. But I look at auto really as the valuation metric. And now I'm not a big fan of coming out and saying, look, this is my model, this is correct. I'm a fan of these are the assumptions I make and these are the variables. Let's tinker with them to see what they could potentially look like, both bear, bull, and base. And the way I look at auto is quite simple. I don't like to project out to 2030 because I just think projecting out to 2030 is like throwing a dart in the ocean. You just have no idea what's going to happen in 2030.
That's true.
It's 7 years away, but man, in tech, 7 years is so long. So I kind of go to the 2026-ish year, right? And I try to discount that back 4 years. So I look at 2023 and I have deliveries here and I start with deliveries. I say, okay, 936 is what Tesla did in 2021. I should probably update this, but I just have a 50% growth rate in perpetuity till 2031. And then I just look at 2036 or 2026 or 2025. And I have, 4.71 year, 7.1 the following year. This is a big jump. So kind of what I've done in my model is, okay, cars sold in 2026, let's just put 5 million to really be just, if you want to say conservative as a bull, fair enough. If you want to say ludicrous as a bear, fair enough. These are variables that we can play with. So 5 million cars, and then I have my base unit level assumptions here. So I have average selling price of a Tesla in 2026 being 47,000, margin being about 20%. And then PE we can play with as well, but I have EPS growth rate at 50. So if I want a peg of one, meaning price over earnings over growth rate, a fair valued, I want a one peg, and that would assume that we're having a 50 PE at that point. And again, we'll play with this here. So before I get into the actual calculations, our factories, these are my assumptions. The factories in 4680s actually scale, the margin improves, aka operating margin that is, demand sustains, no robo taxis, no energy, and no major stock dilution is what I have here. So 5 million cars, 2026. With our $47,000 ASP, I have about $235 billion worth of auto revenue. And then with our 20% operating margin, I have about $47 billion worth of profit. With our 50 PE, that's about a $2.35 trillion market cap. But of course, EPS matters too. So EPS 2026 is $15, let's say. And now remember, 2.35 is not is a dollar in 2026 is not worth what a dollar is today. So we have to discount this back. I discount it using a 14% discount rate, and that's a combination of a 4% 10-year yield, risk-free rate, and then a 10% risk factor on Tesla equity, weighted average cost capital. So about 14% there. So 2.35 discounted back for pay periods. Actually, it should be 3 now, but I've kept it in from last year. 4, let's just even do 4, is about a 1.4-ish trillion dollar market cap discounted to today. So 3.16 billion shares outstanding. You get to an auto valuation at around $440-ish dollars. Let's even say 400 to keep it quite simple for us in terms of math. That's my auto valuation in a nutshell. Of course, when we change these assumptions and these unit economics, these will change in terms of actual projected value out here too. So for example, if the market only wanted to pay a 30 PE on Tesla in 2026 because they thought the growth story was over, that would lower our auto value of the stock down to $264 today. So as we sit here at $197, you can play with these numbers and see where that lies. This is just the auto side. I also do have a back of the napkin FSD side, and this is not about robotaxi or anything. This is about their software subscription business at $200 a month, what their take rate could potentially be in, I think I have it in 2030, I think I have it. So just by selling additional software on the cars that are outstanding for Tesla in the fleet, because by the time 2030 rolls around, and I'll pull it up here, Tesla will have a lot of cars in the fleet, about 77 million. And again, these are assumptions, assuming that these numbers are correct, right? So 77 million-ish cars, let's say. And of course, not every car is going to be eligible for FSD. I have about 85%. That's because some people have bought FSD outright. FSD take rate 50%. We can lower this. We can play with these as well. And then we can get to a different valuation for FSD in terms of market cap. And that's not with robotaxi. That's just with selling software, packaging it up with the certain tools and features it has today. So that's how I look at Tesla in terms of valuation. And really, until this, and we can play with this a little bit more and see where the margins might lie. But in terms of projecting out energy and stuff like that, I continue to look at the auto business as still an underappreciated side of Tesla's business. Now, execution is big. I mean, to get to 5 million cars from where they are today is not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to take a lot of work. But this is what I think Tesla bulls bet on, is the ability for Tesla to execute. Might not be 2026, might not be 7 million cars in 2026. That's why I put 5 in. But these are the assumptions that we're making.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. The discount rate that you put here, 14%, that was because of just to explain that part one more time, because I found that very interesting.
So, I mean, discount rate is really a factor of two different things. One is what your risk-free rate is, right? What can you get in the market today and it's usually the 10-year yield, no matter what equity analysis you do, people throw in the just what the 10-year yield is. And it's also adding in what is the unique equity risk factor for Tesla. Like, what's the actual hurdle rate you want to put in for a stock like Tesla? And I have about 10%. So a combination of those get me to 14.
Huh. Well, that's pretty darn interesting. That's very interesting. And like you're saying that shares outstanding by 2031, right? There's not going to be any dilution, or just going to keeping at 3.56.
This is 2026. So this is not.
Oh, this is 2026.
26.
Okay.
And again, that's also one of my assumptions is no major stock dilution. I can up this, I don't know what you want me to put it to, because of stock-based comp, maybe it goes up a little bit. I don't know, I'll put 3.3, and that'll adjust the valuation or whatever of it. Actually, I haven't updated the exact number of shares outstanding in a while. It's been a couple months, so I'll just put in 3.5 instead of 3.1, and it gets to roughly around 400-ish million.
That's some pretty detailed data. That's nice.
Yeah, and it's, I get pushback and people saying, even in the comments, if you're listening to this, feel free to throw out some variables. I'll plug them in here. But people are, I think the number one thing is, okay, yeah, how can they continue to have margins at where they have today? And if not, improve even margins a little bit as they build out these cars. And I think what we're betting on as Tesla bulls is the capital efficiency for Tesla during the manufacturing process and the operating leverage that Tesla has. So when Tesla makes a million more cars, yes, it'll cost them more in terms of gross COGS, but it's not going to be hitting their bottom line or it's going to be disproportionately saving on their bottom line, and that's why I think their operating income actually will go up as they build more of these cars with gigacastings, structural battery packs, 4680s. So these are my assumptions at least.
Yeah, and then throw in the economy of scale as well, and you would have. I mean, right now it's a Tesla is a what's it called? Pricing power company.
Hmm.
It can just slash prices and it can just make a profit. It's just ridiculous. And I don't think we're going to see another price cut from Tesla anytime soon because they're running out of inventory and they're actually increasing prices on the Model Y.
Hmm.
And this may continue if there's other massive demand for the other models as well. So that's interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And you know, I continue to look at the EV landscape as a forced it's really there's a forcing mechanism here that I think we need to talk about, and that's the governments around the world, whether I like it or you like it, are forcing everyone to switch to 100% EV in 5, 10, 15 years, depending on where you are. Maybe not in Kuwait, but in
Oh,
Canada, I
bro,
mean,
don't. My God, man, there's no EVs here. It's
yeah.
ridiculous. Like I'm actually I'm putting a nice documentary video on why there's no EVs here in Kuwait. Opposite,
Well,
if you go to UAE, if you
oh
go to
yeah.
UAE, like Dubai and Abu Dhabi and all that place, man, there's superchargers. There's like, every sixth or seventh car is a flipping Tesla. And there's superchargers everywhere, obviously
Mm,
made from Tesla. But here in Kuwait, it's like, it's non-existent. And
hmm.
well, there's reasons why for that. And two reasons why I think is because, well, the gas prices here. How much is gas prices in Vancouver right now per liter?
I don't
If you know,
know.
you
I
don't
have
know?
no
Okay.
idea. I think maybe like 160. I actually have no
Holy
idea.
shit.
Yeah, I haven't been
Yeah.
to the gas
So
station in a long time.
here it's about 40 cents per liter
Oh
per
wow.
gas.
Okay.
So that means that right off the bat, that's like almost on par or maybe
Yeah.
even cheaper than charging your electric vehicle. So that right there is cheaper. Second, there's no infrastructure here for the EVs. Like there's no place to charge your
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
There's only select places that you can go and charge. They are popping up, but it's very, very limited. And those who get Teslas, because I've seen a few Teslas here in Kuwait, are the guys who live at a house. Kuwait, the population is about like 4.3 million. 75% of that is foreigners, they're expats, and they don't live in houses. They live in apartments where there's no place that you can charge your EV
Mm,
if you would have one. The guys who do have a house, they do have a possibility to get extension cord, plug to another extension cord, and then bring that to your car and then plug it in. But that's a lot of work for these Kuwaitis. They want things done fast and right now. That's how the
yeah.
culture is here. So I don't know, me seeing EVs here, and it's an oil-rich country too. 95% of the entire government budget inflow is being funded by oil, and 50% of the GDP is from oil here in Kuwait. So
Yeah.
I think it's hard for them to switch to an EV, to the EV infrastructure. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I mean, to be honest, forget about it. Who cares? I mean, the market's so small. I actually don't pay it any mind in terms of what happens there. No, I mean, no offense whatsoever. I'm just
I'm not
saying
offended. No, I'm not.
because I think like all we have to look at is okay. Look at Canada. 2035. 100% of all new car sales have to be electric. Okay.
That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah.
2035 is also, someone correct me in the comments if this is wrong, but in California, it's also 2035. It has to be fully electric by then. Well, here's the thing. Electrified is kind of the hidden Trojan horse in this with hybrids, but we don't have to get into that debate. But all of these places, whether we like it or not, there's forcing mechanisms on auto companies to build out electric cars, EVs. Now, someone's going to have to fill that demand, right? People are going to need to buy cars. It's just going to it just happens every like 70, 60, 70, 80 million cars every year are sold worldwide new.
Yeah.
So It's something that's going to have to happen. Now, who's going to fill that demand? Well, we know Rivian, we know Lucid. They're not able to scale yet, and they're not able to build these cars at any meaningful volume. And even if they wanted to, they would have to pay out their you know what to actually do
Yeah.
this, right? So it's not going to happen in terms of volume yet, as we sit here. Tesla's the only automaker at scale with EVs in North America. Now, China's a different story, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
smaller EV automakers there, and even Volkswagen's doing good stuff. So there's only a few players, and of course, Tesla is the biggest. So when I look at forcing mechanisms in the market, I just look at the fact that everyone's going to have to go electric, whether they like it or not, with new car sales. And there's only going to be a handful of makers for them to choose from unless something materially changes. So it's in terms of volume, Tesla's going to have all the support it can potentially get in terms of demand. It's just a matter of, can Tesla build these cars and at a low enough price, because the Camry or insert Chinese BYD model, that these different segments of the market Tesla has to compete at. But I have no doubt that Tesla will figure it out, and I think we'll hear more on Investor Day about that too.
Yeah, I think and I think on Investor Day, I'm hoping, I don't know, but I'm hoping that they do announce some sort of a gigafactory. I know there's a lot of countries that that we're hearing a lot about the rumors, like Mexico is one of them,
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia is another one, South Korea, and then we've got what's the other places that Brazil, UK, and really to scale up to, I don't know, what is it, 20 million is what their goal is. I think right now with the 4 gigafactories, if
Mm-hmm.
you go max capacity, I think you'd be lucky to get 5 million in production, and that's if they don't do any more upgrades or if they don't add any more factories on those plot of lands. So I
Yeah.
think I think we should be able to see what the gigafactories and where they will be on March 1st. I would be disappointed if I don't hear anything like that, because they said in 2022 that the second half of it we will announce some sort of a gigafactory. That never
Mm-hmm.
happened. Now they said in the beginning, well, they never said in the beginning of 2023, but then naturally you would think that if they miss second half of
Mm-hmm.
2022, they would drag it on to early 2023. But now there's Investor Day, so hopefully in Investor Day they would do such a thing. But who knows what could happen.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Either they announce a bunch of them at once or they announce nothing. But Mexico,
Yeah.
there's so much smoke around Mexico, and I see people saying Indonesia as well. I agree. Yeah, I think we'll hear about that soon enough. I have no real worry about it.
Yeah, and I think the Middle East, and going back to the why Kuwait is not really into EVs yet, I think is a very important point, is that they don't do a lot of investments in environmental stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, it's zero here,
Yeah.
despite the fact that it's 24/7 sun here. They do zero,
Mm.
zero compared to, if you compare it to Dubai. I mean, we have a rule here in Kuwait that you should never compare any other Gulf countries to Dubai, or just UAE, because it's. Have you ever been to Dubai by any chance, or no?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, if you go there, you'll look. It's like you're living in 2050, man. The way how everything is built, it's just 2050. But then they're also thinking so far ahead. The nighttime in Dubai is being lit up by renewable energy, which they have one of the
Mm.
biggest in the world in the desert. And they're going to build, it's huge, it's a massive facility that they have, and they're going to double that in another part of the desert. So these guys, they know what's happening, but like countries like Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, um, Saudi, even though they're funding Lucid, they're not really into this EV stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately for me, I've been looking to get a Tesla, but it's very difficult to get it shipped from UAE to here because of like local reasons, the
Yeah.
rules here and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's that's that, man. But that's some solid data, man. That's a solid data. Now let me pull up mine. So mine is a lot more simpler. Let me go ahead and do that. Share screen, entire screen. All right, and boom, let's go. Alrighty, so let's pull up this. Now I got the intrinsic value here, and this is like the Warren Buffett way of doing it, you could say. For his mentor, Benjamin Graham, I think his name is. That's the intrinsic value of a company If you buy below that, then it's a good buy. If you buy above that, it's not a good buy. Whatever how that intrinsic works, and the formula is up here: EPS multiplied by the PE, which I believe 8.5 PE is like a company that has no growth. So if there's a company that's trading at 8.5 PE, it's not growing. That's what the 8.5 PE is justified as. And then you add the growth by 2, and then you get the current yield bond of the AAA corporate at a 4.4, and the risk-free rate, which is with the current AAA bond yield, as you can see here. And right now it's at 4.4. And if we give right now EPS trailing 12 months, I think it's $4.07 if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Yashu?
That sounds right. And I'll find out as you go through it.
Okay,
Oh,
so
it says sorry. It says $3.62, but I think that might be before my earnings.
yes, I think that's before earnings as well.
Okay.
I think it's around $4.07. That's what it was. But anyways, let's keep $4.07, 8.5 PE, 25% growth rate, growth of 2. And if you put the corporate bond yields today, that's an intrinsic value of $238, indicating that Tesla stock is right now trading below its intrinsic value. So in other words, looking at this data, it seems to be a buy. Now, some people will argue that, a growth rate of 30% makes more sense in the next 4 to 5 years, and then you will get $279 per share. But let's go back to 25 PE. And usually the corporate bond yield, and in the past 10 years, it would be between 3.5 to 3.8. Let's just say 3.8, because I'm hoping, well, hope is never a strategy, but I'm guessing in the next, 4 to 5, 6 months, we're going to see some interest rates dropping and things going back to normal. Who knows? But on the average for the 10-year bond yield, it's about 3.8%. And if you put that in, well, look at that. $275.69 is what the intrinsic value is at that time. And going back to 4.4, they're saying intrinsic value of $238. I mean, we're below that. And so, in my opinion, a fair value for Tesla is $250. What's your take on that?
I think this model, if you assume $238, I think is close enough within the margin of error to argue it's not a buy. Just because it's just
here.
Yeah, just because margin of error, there's a little bit of fluff here and there. Tesla might go up 10 or $20 tomorrow, and then it's just like, is it really a buy? It doesn't scream to me buy at using this intrinsic value calculator. That's why I don't like Tesla. You can't value Tesla, in my opinion, based on today. Tesla's all the investment story of Tesla is all about tomorrow. It's about what, right? And trailing 12 months, Tesla, it's no easy feat to be able to do what Tesla's done even in the last 12 months with all the lockdowns and shutdowns and whatnot. But it's really a multiple year out story of what they can do with earnings power then. Because if you look at your earnings, like if you look at what you have for EPS trailing 12, $4.07. If we think Tesla will do $15 in 2026, that's only 3 years out from now, right? $15. And I see you're putting it in. So $15.
Yeah.
And maybe their growth rate goes down to 20 or something in 2026. I don't know. Even then,
I'd say 15.
15. Yeah, we got to make it a little bit more reasonable, right? It's that's what you're paying for when you're paying for Tesla, is like the execution story of 3 years from now where Tesla is doing these massive numbers. But it's, I guess, fair enough to say, like, look, Tesla with even this super conservative Buffett type of strategy, which I'm not really a value guy, you can still somewhat reasonably justify this should you want to.
Yeah, no, this was just a number that the formula that I was very curious about, and I'm just like, let's see what how value investors value this type of stuff, and I was shocked to see that even if you use their metric, it seems to be below their intrinsic value, which is I found pretty darn interesting to also share as well. Now, when you're talking about going in the future, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, here's a 2030 stock price prediction that I have here. And I know it's a lot of numbers. And again, not financial advice here. Whatever we talk here there's no financial advice, just some numbers to throw in here that we believe, that we think, could possibly happen. And I did some adjustments here. For 2023, I put 1.8 million vehicles deliveries because that's what I guess the minimum could be based on what Elon said in the earnings call. I think it's going to be a bit more than that, but keeping things conservative, 1.8. Average selling price of around 51,000 in 2023.
Hmm.
Operating margin for the vehicles of 12% because I'm not expecting, but I'm adding here there's going to be another price cut that could bring it down to 12%. And then we get the vehicle profits of like 11 billion. And then I have the FSD here as well at a
Hmm.
one-time fee of 15,000. Yeah, that's what I have here. 15% per each vehicle being sold, they will opt in for the FSD of 15,000 that they'll pay the whole thing. We don't have the data what the subscription is yet, so I'm just putting a 15% rate here, and it seems to be around that mark as well. Um, yeah, the total profits, revenue at this point, it's like almost 50% for the FSD profits. I mean, it's practically almost profits for Tesla here.
Yeah.
And we have energy here, which I start to add in this year because I mean, when I look at their Q4 earnings, I'm like, whoa, energy is making an impact. So not too sure if this is what's going to be in 2023, but looking at their mega packs being sold out
Hmm.
until end of 2024, it seems like a good possibility that this could be a very high revenue source and income for Tesla. And I put here 15%. I think it should be more close to 12%, just to be conservative, but 15%. Overall, the total revenue, net income, EPS of $4.43. If you give that a PE of 50, that's 221 for 2023.
Hmm.
So that's what I think 2023 could potentially be at. I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to be less than 20. I think it's going to be a record-breaking year for 2023 for Tesla,
Hmm.
but who knows? I could be wrong. What's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, actually, that's quite a bit lower than actually, I think you're pretty much in line. Well, I don't think even the street's pretty much there where you are. So that's actually a
Oh,
pretty conservative EPS investment for this year. I'd say
I'm
12%
glad.
operating
Yeah.
margin. Yeah, it's very conservative, I think, because that's what the street. I think Morgan Stanley is the one firm that I think has EPS shrinking this year. They have EPS going down to $3.70 this year, 2023.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Jesus.
so. Yeah, the street is projecting a negative EPS growth. So yeah, I think that's pretty conservative, man, for 2023. But again, are you really paying the existential question with Tesla has always been: are you paying for today or are you paying for 4 years from now? And the
Oh man.
people that, yeah, I know. Obviously, I know our
Yeah.
answer, but the people that look at
Yeah.
Tesla and they go like, a $600 billion company for company that just, or yeah, a company that just sells cars. Like, what are you guys talking about? It's more than GM, Ford, insert stupid automaker here combined, and it's that this is the story with Tesla, and it's the argument of what's going to happen in 2026 and beyond. And that's when you really get into some nutty numbers that I could see on your projection, because
Yeah.
you kind of have that like 1% change now compounded until 2030 is a huge change on the bottom line of a business, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to project to 2030, but man, you can really get to some nutty numbers.
Yeah, you can. And here, I'm not even saying, close to 20 million. I'm saying 14 million vehicles going to be sold by
Hmm.
2030. And um, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in 2026, 2027 when they bring the I guess affordable or the 20,000 vehicle autonomy driven next gen, which we'll hopefully find out more info on March 1st on Investor Day. But I'm really curious to see how they're going to scale this like we've never seen before. Because if their goal is to scale up to 20 million by 2030, then that needs some massive scaling. And
Hmm.
although they're doing a very good job, scaling to 20 million is not easy. So I'm very
No.
curious to see how they're gonna jump, how they're gonna make that massive jump from 2026 to 2027. Because
Yeah.
again, 2026, I think they're pushing it. If that's deliveries, 4.9 million vehicles being delivered, and that's pushing it if all four factories are at full capacity. But
Yeah.
hopefully by then there's some new factories or some new upgrades that could push that another couple million more, and they'll have
Yeah.
a separate factory where they can just mass produce like crazy the cheaper model or the affordable model, which can project them to
It
2030 of their goal.
so 20 million sounds like a lot, but I think if you imagine, like, think about it like this: Imagine if Tesla had a smart car today, right? Like a smart car-esque car, like a, like a two-door, small, compact type of car, like really like what you would say almost like a niche case. But they let's say they sold some of these like really mini cars. Like, don't you think Tesla in a couple of years could sell millions of those and build millions of those?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Right? So I think everyone looks at selling millions of cars, 20 million, 15 million cars in 10 years and says, how are they going to build 20 million Model 3s? Because everyone looks at the Model 3 as like the smallest car today. And they go, okay,
Yeah.
well, the $25,000 model is going to be something similar to like a sedan, probably. Like, people are all kind of imagining it this way. But if you just imagine it as like if Tesla made a smart car 2.0 type of car, I'm not saying it's going to look like the smart car, but that type of size, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, I can see how Tesla can print these things out super fast and get them into the hands. Like, I mean, especially I look at Asia, and Marty's saying in the comments not safe enough. That's fair. I know Elon has a little bit of hesitation towards stuff that's a little bit smaller. But Tesla engineering, I'm sure they could figure out some ways. Like look at the Cybertruck. I don't think anyone here could have imagined that coming out when it did. So I think they'll redesign something. But let's just say something small like that. If they can build something really tiny like that, that is still very safe and it's still a commuter car, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, Tesla could probably make these in the millions within a year or two. And of course, people are going to buy these cars because there's demand all around the world for smaller stuff. Europe, it's hard to drive probably the Cybertruck. It's going to be very hard to drive the Cybertruck in Asia. Some of the alleys you got to go through. So these types of areas ask for different types of cars. Even in China, they love driving smaller cars, and those sell a lot. So that's what I look at is like Tesla's going to change the perception we have of 20 million cars by 2030, and they're going to change the perception of what even a car looks like after this $25,000 model gets announced.
Yeah, I'm really. What do you think it's gonna look like? I'm curious to know. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I don't
Like,
know.
oh, oh.
Yeah. I mean, something as big, like I said, something as big as a smart car. But I'm not a designer. I'm not even a visionary like that. I have no idea. I'll just wait for them. I mean, some people are gonna say in the chat for sure after listening to me, gonna say, look, yeah, $25,000 model is nothing but the Model 3, but with cost savings and continued engineering, and then bringing the price down. And that's fine, that's fair. But I still think Tesla wants to hit that market of a smaller car. Even the sedan might be too big for a lot of people and might be too wide in a lot of areas. So I think they want to hit different demographics with this new car.
Yeah, and although like as Apple proved and Tesla now proved it, you don't need to have 30 different models to sell. You just need a few handful. And I think Tesla's gonna have maybe one or two, maybe a few actually, that's just in that range that you can pick either between, okay, we have this sedan looking one that's like 20 to 25,000. We have this SUV looking one, just to see, so it can capture every single part of that market.
Exactly.
It's gonna see how that's gonna look like. Maybe some are saying without it comes without a steering wheel or something like that, which I doubt.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, like that is literally what Elon said. Elon said when this compact comes out, it's going to be robotaxi first. It's going to be FSD oriented, and we're going to want to ship it without a steering wheel. I mean, Elon said this. Now, whether or not you believe him, I don't know, different story. But that's what Elon has said. And someone says the Honda Fit it could look like, and I think yeah, I mean something maybe like ish this. Now, of course, no one. I think we're going down the wrong path if we think it'll look exactly like what Tesla's already built, because the Cybertruck just hit us out of nowhere in terms of different design. And I think
Yeah.
Tesla was going to want to do that. But yeah, something like this. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a cheaper car that sold in a lot of areas in the world where, roads were smaller and underdeveloped, and it looks something like this. Yeah, I think that looks great.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I'm just thinking about the getting the car without a wheel. I mean, but do you think like that means that would mean that if they're gonna have the car ready by 2025, 2026, they would need to have autonomy down and
Yeah.
they're gonna get that 100 level 5 by 2025, 2026. And I'm not
Yeah.
doubting that, but I'm just saying that then you got to go
Yeah.
for approval, then you got to go for regulatory, all that kind of stuff. Then you got states and politicians, and you got all that to go through. So I don't know.
So Farzad,
Oh,
he
I love
is
him.
so he's telling me,
Yeah,
yeah, so Persian brother, and he's
yeah,
telling me
man.
you know what he's saying? So he's saying, and I'm gonna put words in your mouth, Farzad, if you're listening to this later. He's saying FSD happens this year. That's what he's saying. He's saying
Yeah,
the progress of FSD and how fast it's going and how big the incremental changes are happening. He is very sure. I'm going to say Farzad has said 100% guaranteed, book it, that FSD, I'm kidding. He didn't actually say that, but I'm putting words in his mouth now, that it's happening this year. And to be fair, you should probably trust him more than me because he drives FSD beta. I don't have FSD
that's true.
beta.
That's
So
true.
if anyone would know, I guess it would be him. But also, he does live in Austin. Like, so there's degrees of like, maybe in this geo it works really well, or that city it works really well. But, if you threw it in Vancouver, it might not work very well. So, but if we take his bullishness and he really thinks it's going to happen, I mean, that kind of falls in line with their compact timeline. Now, of course, Tesla has to execute, and I think we're all kind of tired of hearing about Tesla say, "Oh, it's happening this year, this year, this year." We
Yeah,
just want to see
that's
it done. But of
yeah.
course, it's hard to ignore the progress that's been made as well. So, yeah, it's interesting times.
Yeah, and like even that, if the new compact car is going to come without a steering wheel, don't forget this is the vehicle that's going to be mass produced to reach
Hmm.
that 20 million mark. Maybe China won't agree to that kind of thing. Maybe another country won't agree to having full self-driving until it's further proven. So that's why I'm thinking it doesn't make sense to have a car without a steering wheel. Despite that, even if FSD has been solved and it's ready to go, I think there's some, um, rules and regulatory approvals that needs to be approved in other countries. That I think that'll take time and that'll delay Tesla's mass production for that. So that's why I'm thinking it just,
It
it
might
wouldn't
it,
make, yeah,
it just might be detachable. Like they might just make it and its ability that you can remove it yourself or something.
yeah,
Like
that
it
too.
has the ability, and of course it has to be street legal. So it's not going to be able to get shipped without a steering wheel anyways, whether they liked it or not. So I think it's, what Tesla did with the Plaid, and they like talk about you can just get in the car and it'll automatically go and drive or reverse depending on where it thinks you want to go, and you don't have to press the stock. I think they'll kind of do that kind of coolish kind of insert feature, kind of a gimmick feature for the non-steering wheel to begin with, of like, oh yeah, you can just unlock the steering wheel by unlocking this latch and then unscrewing this, your steering wheel is off, and kind of just have it as like, okay, once we have robo taxis. But yeah, I think we're years away from that still.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens on Investor Day. But in the meantime, there's this one chart here that I always look at, just even when I'm bored. It's a lot of fun to look at this chart. It just is because we've been through it in 2020. Now we're at it at 2022, 2022 to 2023, and this is more of a wider scale because this is an actual bear market. So, where do you think we are in this chart?
First of all, if you're listening to this, come watch on stream and give us your answer in the chat. Um, so I think um we're probably a little bit after that dip between anger and depression.
Oh, so right
So
here.
yeah, no, a
Oh
little bit
no.
after that.
Oh,
Like yeah,
really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So well, does that even flow? Because we've hit new highs. So maybe like right after anger, up there, like
Okay.
yeah, on that like peak up, in terms of the market. I don't think it'll get that much worse from here. But I do think there's downside risk baked in a little bit with CPI next week and inflation story resurrecting a little bit. But I don't think we're that far away from the end. There's a lot of people that think we're in complacency, and I want to hear where you're at. But a lot of people think we're in complacency. So, I think we're closer to the end than we think. But yeah.
Yeah, my take on it is well, we've been through the anxiety already. We've been through denial. My investments are with great companies. They will come back. We've heard that many times. Panic. We saw that in December. People going like, "Shit, everyone is selling. I need to get out now." And then capitulation, I'm getting 100% out of the market. I can't afford to lose anymore. We've seen that as well. Um, but I haven't seen enough of that yet. I've seen people go like, "Yeah, I'm getting out, but I'm in it for the long term." I still hear people saying that, and I'm also hearing a lot of people also saying things like, "Why is shorting the market a thing? Why is this allowed?" I'm hearing that as well.
Mhm.
But I'm also hearing my retirement money is gone. I
So
don't know
you've
what
heard
to do. I'm
everything.
an idiot. I've heard all of it. So, uh, and I'm also hearing the suckers rally as well. So,
So what you're saying is we're on hope then.
well, I mean, it's hard to say that because um,
Are
I'm
you,
still thinking we're in between the capitulation and anger because I don't think we've reached the full capacity of these two parts yet. The reason why I'm also saying we're not at hope yet is um, the well, I don't think it has much of an impact anymore as it did like last year, but the invasion that happened with Ukraine that sent shockwaves everywhere. And I don't, and I'm just thinking, like I had a thought about it the other day. And I'm just like, the 1 year anniversary is coming up, which is the 24th of Feb, and they have something cooking. Russia has something cooking up, but whatever they do, it's not going to impact as much as what happened last year. So I don't know. I'm in between these two things because this is a geopolitical thing, and as we know, Russia has like a big influence in oil and gas, and if that goes up again, then inflation will go back up again, and interest rates, all that kind of stuff. I know I'm going to a whole different world. I love talking about geopolitics, like one of my favorite things to talk about. But I don't know. Um,
so what's your answer? If you had to,
my
so capitulation,
it
between
it's in
capitulation and anger.
yeah. I think it's we're still here.
Okay.
I think we're still here. I think that we definitely bottomed when it comes to Tesla stock, in my opinion. I think 102. I think anything if it goes below 102, that means they had a terrible Q1 and they reported a loss.
Hmm.
And
Not gonna happen.
guidance is terrible, which I don't think is going to happen because we can see the margins, we can see them selling vehicles, we can see them hitting records. I don't think that's
Mhm.
going to happen. So I do truly think we've bottomed for Tesla. I'm not too sure for the broader market. I know Google's having a rough time and the rest of them is having a rough time, but yeah, I think we're in between capitulation and anger, and depending what the Fed does next, we could see how that'll um, come up. But it goes to show you that you can't really time the market, man. You just can't wait for depression. You can't wait if we're in full anger mode, and you can't wait if we're in
Mhm.
disbelief. It's really
Yeah.
hard to time the market. Personally, for me, when Tesla was going down below 300 per share, which was below a trillion, I started to add more shares, and the more it went down, and the heavier it was going down, like minus 10% days. I just bought heavier and heavier and heavier, and I saw all of the anxiety, the denial, the panic, the capitulation. I had some guy on my YouTube channel commenting that, yeah, man, if I'm gonna bet against you that if the stock goes below $100, you pay me 100, and if it goes over 300, you pay me 100, and I'm like, bet. And it went below like 102, and I'm like, oh man, I'm definitely gonna lose that $100. But then it bounced it up, and I'm just like, ha.
Well, I mean, yeah, well, first of all, I think bouncing from where we did at 100 and whatever dollars, 100, let's say, to 200 within a month and a half is actually ridiculous. Like for a mega
Dude,
cap to do that. Um, it's just crazy to think that, you've gone up pretty much doubled the stock in a month and a half for a mega cap. Like this just doesn't happen often. But that goes to show you that there is some sort of market dynamic happening when we were selling off to 100 that was exogenous to Tesla.
yeah,
There was
yeah.
something happening, whether it was a big investor liquidating in September, October, we know is Elon selling, so there was that. But this recent dip down to 100, there was something there where big institution was selling off, short sellers, whatever it might have been, but there was something exogenous happening.
I think it was margin
And
calls.
margin calls could have been part of it. Could have been part of it. Yeah, but yeah, anyone listening, I hope you don't use a lot of margin. If not, you use no margin. It's just tough, especially now. Like I've been putting out videos, I'm saying like, look, we're up 100% over the last month and a half. If you have margin, this is a great opportunity to get rid of it. And maybe we go up another 100%. You know,
Yeah, you never
hopefully
know.
we do. But at the end of the day, if we go back down, if we give up 25% of the rally we've had, I mean, with even a little bit of margin, that can really hurt your portfolio. So you got to be careful.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
that's true. No, I'm just thinking that, the 100% increase that we had from 102 to now close to 100, this could be a sucker's rally as it shows here. And then we could see a dip going down to, I don't know, maybe like 160, 170, I don't know. And then hopefully the Fed comes out and says, "Yep, inflation is down, and we're gonna pivot because if we don't pivot, we're gonna go to deflationary state, and that's bad. And we're gonna start pivoting, and hopefully we can see this hope coming up again, and we don't see this sharp rise because then we're gonna see a big drop as we do usually. But maybe that's the case. I don't know."
Well, no, not all of. I mean, the thing to notice with the graph is the time, although it's on the x-axis, is not proportional for every stage. You could go through anger and depression within half the amount of time that you go through hope all the way to euphoria. We saw the last bull market last a decade, right? Like it was a
Yeah,
long
that's true.
time.
That was
So,
nice.
that portion, so parts of this can be elongated, and I
That's
think
true.
what's unhealthy. What's unhealthy is for me, I've noticed is, of course, if you want to make money in the market, you have to be able to change and pivot and be open to your thesis being different, flip flopping for lack of a better term.
Mm.
But when you flip flop or when you don't have that mentality, most people cannot switch their thesis overnight. It's just not possible. But when you go short and you go negative, what happens is when you get a rally in the market, you have the same thought. It's a sucker's rally. And then what happens is if it continues to go up and it is indeed a new bull market, all you're going to do the entire way up is you're going to deny it. You're going to say, no, this, and we saw that in the last bull market after rate cuts in 2018 or whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I remember that.
there's been a large group of bears that have been saying, oh, well, COVID sucks. And like the world sucks. This sucks. How's the stock market going up? This is all fluff. This is all just pumping QE. And so what happens is, you miss out on massive returns because you've flipped to bearish and you have no inkling to switch. So the ability to switch from bearish to bullish is not easy. And I'd rather just have a long-term perspective of a decade, 2 decades to invest in general good companies. And I think they'll go up and I think they'll provide value for the world. That's a much easier thesis for me to have than to flip flop back and forth, especially when ego can get in the way and all you want to do is deny. Like we've seen Tesla go up to $200 and people are shorting again. People are saying like, look, the whole market's going to turn over, and it might, but what if it doesn't? And then what if your ego gets in the way for you to miss the next 5 years of growth? Because every step of the way, you're going to deny it. I have a friend like this who thinks everything's going to crap. He thinks Nasdaq's going to get cut in half. This is like whatever it is, he thinks, and he's like, I'm not buying I'm not investing a single dollar until this all comes back to fair value from the 1980s and 19. It's like shut up,
Nice.
man. Like it's just there's just some people that would rather be right and force themselves to be right and never make any money than to just invest, bet in the long haul for whatever company. It doesn't have to be Tesla, the stock market in general, and just let their money compound. So
Yeah, and I always say to my viewers that look, if you're investing in the stock market, decade at least, decade is at least the horizon you want to have when you're investing in the stock market. And if you don't want to bet against a company, just get an index fund. That's it.
yeah,
It's the same thing with real estate. It's the same thing with any investment. It's a decade long. It's time in the market beating timing the market. And
yeah.
I don't know why people like timing the market. It's very painful. It's
Well,
it's so stressful.
you can trade with a small portion of your capital if you want. If you want to play around, it's fine.
But it's so
You can do.
stressful. Like it's
It can be.
okay, I'm gonna buy at like what, like let's say Tesla stock for example. I'm gonna buy at
Yeah.
150, put a stop loss at 160 or 140, and then I hit the level. Okay, now what should I do next? Like, no, man, like that's just so stressful. Like,
Well, you can have trading plans in place. I think options are a big exception for me. Like, I like talking options, and options allow, for people that like, people that don't have a lot of money and they're starting from where they're starting from, options provide a lot of leverage for people, good or bad, but they provide a lot of leverage for people to be able to buy the amounts of underlying equity, if you want to say, with a fraction of the capital that's required to really outlay for certain equities. So options provide that leverage. But again, it shouldn't be the mainstay of what you do. And of course, like even with the stock market, I put in, the money I put in is money, like you said, that I don't need in the next X amount of years. Like I'm really
True.
putting in money that it's like I can set it and forget it and not think about it. And to be honest, a lot of people don't do that. I hear comments, people in other videos are like, "Oh, I'm taking every spare cent I have out of my savings and I'm throwing it in, and I have nothing to live on. I'm throwing it in because it's just these stock prices are just so wildly low right now." It's like maybe, but man, can you stay liquid as a house? Hopefully, you can still have
Yeah.
have a roof over your head and all that stuff. So I think making sure that you're financially responsible, you're managing your own risk, and I segment out my money in terms of if I put this away in this investment bucket, it's there and it's separate. I don't even think about it after, but that forces me to not overdo stuff, right? It's like I have that hard line, like when I put money in, I never want to take it out, the kind of mentality. And that
Yeah.
prevents me from like throwing in money that, oh yeah, but I can throw this in, but within a couple of days I definitely need it back. Then it starts to get unhealthy that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And again, you always want to invest money that you're willing to lose. Just money. Imagine throwing that money down the drain, locking it up, or just putting it in a safe, locking it up, and coming back to it in 10 years and see what will happen. That's how everybody should, you know,
Mhm.
view investing, whether it's a stock market, inventory, not inventory. I'm just reading the comments here
Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
just
I agree.
real estate, everything.
I agree, and not because that's what's going to happen, aka go to zero. I mean, it might. I mean, you always get the old bankruptcy here and there, but because the mentality and the freeing aspect that you have once you use that mentality, once you use the mentality of I'm locking this away and there's no way I'm touching it, or I don't even have the ability to withdraw this in the short term, that's freeing. And guess what? You'll make a very different decision with that mentality than you will if you go in it with the mentality of, oh, I'll put in another X amount of thousands here and then I'll take it out if I ever need to. And if the stock dips a little bit more, I'll take it out really quick, because now you're over leveraging and you're going to make really bad decisions, emotional decisions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the stock market, if you put your emotions in the stock market, man, good luck. Rip.
Yeah. I mean, I tell my dad this all the time. My dad loves talking stocks with me, and he's like, he for some reason he
But
loves listening.
by the way, are you all in Tesla stock, or are you like diverse? Not to
I
interrupt.
have I
Yeah.
have a little bit of like Nasdaq, and I have a little bit of Apple, but like very little. In terms of all of my stocks, pretty much all of it is Tesla oriented, whether it's some
Well,
option
let's
stuff.
go. All
Yeah.
right.
But it's not all I do. I mean, stocks is not the main. Like my number one strategy for investing is number one, invest in yourself. Not enough people invest in themselves in courses,
That's true.
education, self-care, going to the gym, reading books. Like that's where I invest most of my money, hopefully. But yeah, in terms of stocks, pretty much all my concentrated focus and concentrated portfolio is in Tesla. But the thing to consider also is, so I was talking to my dad about emotions. You're talking about emotions,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
And emotions are so tough because whether we like it or not, we're human. And when Elon says something and stock goes down 20%, you have that little inbuilt of like, oh, he caused this. You have this emotion that's going to come out. And I was talking to my
Yep.
dad about this, and he loves, for some reason, listening to CNBC. Okay. I don't know why.
Oh
He
my
listen,
God.
he loves listening to he has
They are
CNBC Pro.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, but like he has CNBC Pro, and I told him, I'm like, Dad, look, you cannot be watching CNBC as much as you do, or reading mainstream media as much as you do, without reading the other side of it. Because I told him, I'm like, whether you like it or not, subconsciously you just read the headlines and you assume they're fact. That's all he does. And he's
Let's
kind of
yeah.
He's my barometer of a retail Tesla like a non-informed Tesla investor. No offense,
Mm,
Dad, but he's just he's kind of like the headline reader, and then makes assumptions based on just the headline. Doesn't do
yeah.
anything else. And you talk about emotions. The other day he was talking to me and he's like, "Yeah, well, Elon screwed with the stock and he sold and he didn't actually have to buy Twitter and you just like texted someone that he's going to buy Twitter and then he had to force to buy." I'm like, you're just reading the headline and you actually don't really know what's happening. So it's emotions get in the way. And the only way you can't let emotions get in the way is literally if you close your eyes, which I don't think anyone really wants to do if they're investing enough money in something.
Yeah, and I've been investing in the stock market for about a decade, and the first couple of years I let my emotions run, but then I realized after I'm like, this is not a place for that. So I'm like, from then, emotions in the stock market, they are dead. They will not come into play. They will not judge if I want to buy, if I want to sell, nothing. Just gonna go based on facts. Gonna go based on belief because that's what investing in a company is as well, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, I feel like it. None of that stuff. So I learned to get rid of that. But for majority of the people, it's not. It's not
Mm.
easy. It catches up to them.
Oh yeah.
It does. Now, Investor Day, March 1st. What do you think is going to? In fact, let me pull up the what's it called? Where is it? The announcement. Tesla announces Investor Day, March 1st, and it says they're going to be discussing long-term expansion plans, Gen 3 platform, capital allocation,
Hmm.
potentially a buyback, and other subjects with our leadership team.
Hmm.
What do you think is um, is going to happen on March 1st? What they're going to reveal?
Okay, my hot take on this is they announced Investor Day to cool down what was the hot investors, people that were pissed at Elon, people that were calling for Ross Gerber to come on the board. It was called in, and again, this is me being a little bit salty about it, but I think it was really just called in to cool the salty investors down. I don't think they really had plans to do this thing, but they realized, okay, let's do a day for investors. We'll calm them down. We have our annual general shareholder meeting happening in May or whatever, earlier this year. Let's calm them down before we need them to vote on important aspects of the business and make sure that they don't elect someone on the board that doesn't need to be there. So that's my kind of cynical take on Investor Day. That being said, they announced Investors Day, and obviously they're gonna really try to put their best foot forward and really try to paint a good picture of where they want to go. So I think it actually works in our favor as retail investors because they realize they messed up. But September to January was probably the worst. Like it was not handled well by Tesla. I think we can say that stock was
Yeah.
dipping every single day. Elon was selling, no communication. I think we can all agree that it could have been done at least a little bit better.
Yeah.
Now, I think that buys us some information that we otherwise would not have been privy to. So I think what they'll talk about Investor Day is lead with their formula to copy and paste gigafactories, the how they're going to do it, and where they're generally plotting for and how many they need for their massive goal, like their big goal. And I think in general, I'm not sure if we get specific announcements or the model announcements or whatever, but I do think we're gonna get some interesting intel on copy and pasting gigafactories. I think that's what it's gonna be about in a nutshell.
Scaling. Yeah.
Yes.
I think scaling. I think that's one of the main things. And I'm not too sure if you follow Oracle Investments.
Yeah. Yeah.
He talks about Tesla all the time. And when I was live streaming with him, he came up. He said something that was pretty interesting. He calls it the hamburger effect, where it's like, you know, all they do in the factory to scale up is just have the bottom part ready and the top, and then put it in and go. And I'm just like, huh, that's pretty darn interesting because I never thought of that. But that would be a very efficient way for them to scale up. But what like I know we talked about Gen 3 platforms and stuff like that. Um, I'm just thinking we said it's going to be built more around like auto drive and autopilot autonomy, all that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, the new
It doesn't sound
generation
like you're
coming
very
up.
It doesn't sound like you're very bullish on the timeline for FSD just yet.
Yeah, I'm not because I mean, I've seen videos that it's, driving better than humans in New York, which is amazing. But what I'm more concerned about is like, okay, great, FSC will be solved in the next 2 years. What I'm more afraid of or more concerned about is the next steps. The next step is, approval. And this is where you get politicians involved. And we all know what happens when you involve politicians.
Well, look, I've been on the same boat as what you're talking about with red tape, but I've gotten a lot of pushback from a lot of people about this, and people saying, "Look, it's on the city, it's on the municipality. Government really can't really do much in terms of federal government. It's going to be on the specific cities." So, what my rollout plan for FSD is pretty simple. When Tesla think they're close to FSD, we're going to get a news alert one day, and it's going to say, breaking. City mayor of Miami announces partnership with Tesla for a 400 fleet robo-taxi network to operate between X amount, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. pilot project. That's the way we're going to get FSD. I don't think we're going to get FSD from waking up one morning and V11 came out and everyone's like, hey, have you had a disengagement? No, I haven't. Oh, well, this is full zero disengagement. Not going to happen. I think this is going to be a city-based platform rollout, and Tesla's going to be the first pilot themselves. Tesla has to eat their own food here. It has to eat their own dog food here and say, look, we believe this works, and we're going to run a pilot, and we're going to show the city of Miami. Las Vegas makes sense. I see PowerPoint saying the Vegas tunnel. Yeah, definitely. To run these as platforms, as pilot projects. And so until we even get to an announcement of that, I agree with you. We cannot say that we're close to that. Tesla is not even doing what Cruise or Waymo is doing with limited hour driving. Tesla needs to show us that they can do this with a pilot project and eat their own dog food on this. I think they will. I think timeline is just going to be, of course, Elon time a little bit, but it's fine. Now, the compact though, right? Now, everyone's saying Project Highlander, and
I'm
how
hearing that a lot
Tesla
too.
Model 3 cost reduction and pushing the price down for Model 3 is kind of the move. If Tesla can continue to adapt on the Model 3, change up the interior design, lower the cost, they can bring prices down for the Model 3 even more. And bringing them down even more, you kind of get into that kind of Chevy Bolt territory of cheapness. And I think Tesla will focus on cost reducing there in the time that it doesn't have a compact out yet. And I see Richard from Not Legal Advice out to you saying it's crossing state lines that's the legal issue, and he's a lawyer, so he would know. So it's if Tesla theoretically operates within a municipality, who's to stop it really? And Elon doesn't like these level 5 designations, level 4. Like, he doesn't care for these kind of rigid structures. He doesn't really feel like that's the way. And maybe haters will say it's because they don't think Tesla is level 4 or level 3 yet. But they're a little bit. It's like a boxed definition on something that might be a little bit more fluid. So we'll see where it goes. But I agree. We need to see Tesla show that more. But Gen 3 platform doesn't have to be compact, right? Gen 3 platform can be like the Altium with GM before they switched out. It's like kind of like that plug and play aspect of like, this is our base, structural 4680, press on sides, front, back, giga casting. Copy and paste this across a Sprinter van, copy and paste this off of a minivan, copy and paste this XYZ model. I think that's what they're going to talk about is, in Mexico, we're going to do a Sprinter van. In Europe, we're going to do this car. In China, we plan to do this car. And by the way, it's all going to be using this Gen 3 platform that's going to have the same engineering lines. And by the way, we're going to make them in a gigafactory that we have down to a formula. And this is our new formula going here. And that's how we're going to get to XYZ million cars.
That's true. And I don't think, and I've always said this on my channel, it wouldn't make sense for them to announce the new or show them that it's been completed, the new gen, because then people go like, oh, that's what, 20 grand, 25 grand? Then what's the point of getting the Model 3 when I can just wait for that? So I think they're going to show something like exactly what you said. They're going to show like the blueprint on how they're going to make it, but not going to show how it looks like and stuff like that. It's going to be like some sort of prototype that like, look, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, and this is what future vehicles will look like and cost efficient. That would
Yeah,
be smart for me. Oh, okay, so they're not working on the next gen, and if I'm a regular customer, all right, I'll just go ahead and model the Model 3 as I always wanted, or something like that. Until it's ready for
exactly.
mass production, they will say, "Hey guys, look, 25,000, 20 grand, or maybe it's the actual Model 3. It's now available. It's gonna be mass produced. You guys can order now."
Yes,
Then we'll
yes,
see that, because then they learned their
exactly.
lessons from Model 3. That's what I'm expecting as well. And I think investors are not expecting that. They're expecting, oh, they're gonna go ahead and do the 25,000 vehicle. We bullish on that. And if they don't show it, okay, sell.
Exactly. I know, I agree. Like, hey, like so they talk about Gen 3. They say this is our formula, plus or minus. Doesn't matter what country you're in. We can make any model with this. We can make any size car with this. Great. Now, you take that and you say, a year from now, Tesla makes an announcement, China being like, hey, by the way, in 3 months, we're gonna actually start shipping this car. It's gonna be 15,000 equivalent
Could you
dollars or
imagine?
something.
Whew.
So, and then they say in Mexico, we're going to start making Sprinter vans. And then they start making Sprinter. So I think it's going to be very geographically based of what they make and when they make it. And that will prevent a lot of the Osborne effect that might happen.
That's true. I'm also expecting in Investor Day for them to announce or have some sort of a plan for gigafactories, like I mentioned before. I mean, they kind of have to do that because they got to scale up to that 20 million if they want to. But I'm sure we'll get some idea that, yeah, we're doing something in Mexico, we're doing something in Indonesia. I think I'm also expecting not a buyback announcement, because there's a lot of Twitter news going around saying that, oh, they're going to announce some sort of a buyback on March 1st. I don't think that's the case. I think they're most likely going to say, hey guys, buybacks are on the table for 2023. Maybe we're thinking to do it end of the year, mid-year. Like they won't say a perfect timeline, but they're saying that we're going to do a buyback, but sometime this year.
Yeah, no, they're not. The only they're definitely going to buy back stock this year. But they're not going to talk about it on Investor Day unless it gets brought up as a question. I do not think they're going to bring that up in and of itself. I think their capital allocation portion of what they said is reserved towards gigafactories. Now, inevitably, an investor is going to ask about buybacks because we're very short-term sighted like that. So they will, and they'll probably get addressed, but probably be in the Q&A is my guess.
Yeah, that's true. And we have Ramesh here asking a question. Thus, getting the same model will work for demand. I think there is some saturation limit to a model, price point style.
Well, that's the Gen 3. That's what Gen 3 would allow, is the plus or minus, the addition or subtraction of elements and the ability to make cars based on geography. I posted this video of Tom Zhu on from Tesla China back then, talking about making a China specific car, like a
Yes, I saw that.
very,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And that was a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like it's on their mind of that they need to do this and they will do this, and they want to make like a very proud Canadian, proud Chinese, proud German car, and they're going to do it with certain design elements that they're going to come up with. But I think the Gen 3 platform is going to be the underlying there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Let's see if there's I'm looking for any questions in the comments. Da, 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 da. Let's see. There was this one question that I saw. Da, 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 da. We have from Marty here saying, why sell compact to masses when Tesla can I think that's re-app 30K a year in a robotaxi network.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's an argument that is possible, because if Tesla can do robotaxis, why would they sell any more cars? They just keep all of
Exactly.
them, run them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's assuming they can do it.
Yeah. And then we got PowerPoint Plaid became a YouTube member. Oh, geez, nice.
Hey, there we
Welcome
go.
to the team. Welcome to the team, man. Let's
Shout out to
go.
PowerPoint.
Yeah, shout out to PowerPoint. And then he says as well, yeah, Yashu J got you.
I recognize PowerPoint. He's also a member of my channel. Shout out to you, PowerPoint.
Woo, sheesh. Yeah, shout out to him as well. Nice.
Or them. I don't know,
And as you
whichever.
mentioned, we have Joe that says, doesn't Tesla 2 have his own design team? Yes, they do. And as well as you just mentioned, that, as Tom Zhu said, thinking about doing a proud Chinese car, which is
Yeah,
in the works.
absolutely.
What else,
Yeah.
what else we got here, man? I'm looking for any juicy. Oh, Kairav. This guy is like the fan of like Tesla community, man. Pejjy, I think 12% operating margin is quite low, even with more price cuts. Keep in mind, Berlin Austin will be nearly ramped up by 2023. Yeah, but I mean, I am convinced that 2023 will be a shocker to everybody when it comes to Tesla's earnings. I'm convinced of that. But I like to keep things conservative. 12%, I think that's including another price cut. So not the current prices right now. So if they went and dropped the prices again for another 10, 15, 20%, then we could probably see 12%. But so far, we're not seeing that. In fact, we're seeing a big demand coming up. Your thoughts,
Yeah, I
Yashu?
I think it's always better to be on the side lower, just so you can be surprised on the upside.
Yeah, I agree. Always want to keep your expectation a whole lot lower. So when it comes out and it's like, oh, it caught me with my pants down. What do I do? What's this guy saying? So I'm putting, yeah. All right, let's see what this guy says. Let's read it. Hey guys, I'm putting 100,000 into Tesla soon. Oh my god, not financial advice, man, but okay. What would you say it's a good time? Before investor day or after? Well, I mean, again, you can't time the market whether it's before or after. Investing is a long-term horizon. 2030 is what everyone's looking at, 2035, 2040. So if you think that the price is going to 2x by 2030, then it's a fantastic price right now. But some bears will go like, no, man, it's going to go below 50 bucks per share for some reason. To
Yeah.
their eyes, it's not a good buy. So you have to do your valuation, do your DD, do your research. Personally, for me, I do believe my price target for Tesla by 2030 is 1413. That's like what, 6x from now, in my opinion. And that's based on vehicles and FSD and a little bit of energy as well. But it's just a prediction. It may not happen. It may go lower. And if I'm seeing the stock price going to be 1413, then 200, 300, 400 is a fantastic deal, in my opinion, and in my opinion alone. And so, yeah, that's what I think about that. So, yeah, never go based on YouTube advice. I mean, it's just some random people on the internet talking about things they love, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all the questions that we got for today, man. Yashu, man, thanks a lot for
Yes, sir.
coming on. And those of you guys, watching, his channel is in his channel link is in the description. Check him out. Extremely good data. Goes lives all the time, and he does giveaways. So, I mean, I think the latest you did was with using Farzad as like the.
Yeah,
That's
he
awesome.
lost a bet. He lost a bet. So
He lost the
so,
bet.
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
he lost a
What was
bet,
the
and the
bet?
bet
What was the bet?
the bet he was convinced that Joe Biden was going to say the word Tesla during the State of the Union speech. And I said there's no way he's going to say Tesla. You're just crazy. So we just made a bet on buying some merch. So yeah, shout out to you, Farzad.
Yeah, man. Shout out to
Yeah,
him. Shout out to him.
thanks
He's
for having me on though. It was a
gone.
lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on, man. And again, guys, check out his channel. Good stuff. I'm a subscriber. And
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
good value.
Yeah,
Thanks a
everyone
lot, man.
hit like on this video, hit subscribe on Pejjy's channel as
Smash
well.
it, man. Yeah.
And leave us a comment if you're watching on replay as well. I'm sure we're going to read everything back anyways. So even if you didn't catch us on live, leave us a comment.
Yeah, man. Indeed. Thanks a lot. And see you guys in another video. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Take care.